Welcome to the Spirits, Angels, and Guides Oh My podcast.
Where the supernatural gets real, baby.
Hey, Spirit Gang. Welcome back to our little podcast, Spirits, Angels, and Guides Oh My. I am Nancy Christine Brady.
And I'm Tara Diana. And we are going to be answering questions. We are going to be answering your questions, burning questions, things that you've got on your mind. And we want to help you with the answers.
Burning questions.
Burning questions. Like you are sitting at home going, damn, I need to contact those two crazy ladies on that teeny tiny podcast that one day will be larger than life. And so we're here for it. So Nan, how do you want to do this, baby? I did four questions. So I sent you the 4 questions that people had sent to us.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you the questions and you start, and then I'll follow in with another answer, or we'll both answer. Okay. So the first question we received was, how do you know the messages you receive are really from spirit and not just your own thoughts?
Oh, that's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
Terrible one for me to answer because legitimately, I don't know. I just trust the process. What comes to me, I have no filter. What I get is what I give. Period. Hard stop. So I don't question it. And I guess like Nan, you mentioned this every once in a while that I've been doing this work for such a long time that I think I don't think about anything anymore. Like I literally don't think I can teach you guys how to do this for sure. But when I'm up there, I don't do anything except for say I'm open for the highest and best for whoever I'm working for. So whatever comes to me is what I give. Now, how do we kind of gauge from there? When I'm giving the message is how it resonates with the person. Are they saying, yes, I know what you're talking about. I know, yes, this makes sense. If I'm giving evidential, like the evidence is connecting, am I giving empowerment? Yes, I feel that. I know that energy. And for me, that engages, that I'm connected, I guess, because even if they said to me, no, that doesn't make sense, I'd be like, put it on the shelf. It will come back to you because I trust that what I'm getting is enough. So earlier on in my career or whatever you want to call it, there were times where I was like, oh my God, is that me? Like, is that me? But it wasn't for very long that I sat in that kind of energy because it's just so natural for me to just give it.
Right. Well, often what I'll tell my students is, when I hear spirit, I hear it in my own voice, but it doesn't talk like I talk. So I know, and thank you. I just had a crow fly out and, go give some cause to confirm that. But I basically will hear and then I'll deliver the message, but I know it's not from me because it's not how I would normally talk to you or talk to even myself, because I talk to myself a lot. And it's usually in a different sort of way. And it depends on who the spirit is that's coming through, because, for example, dogs talk to me very differently than a grandma would, right? So often words will come and be downloaded that I would never use in my normal vocabulary. So that's how I know it's coming from spirit. But again, it's trust the process. Trust what you're getting. Don't second doubt it.
Yeah.
I would that's be my answer.
When I do this in circle, and I'm that person who, like, if my mouth doesn't say it, my face will kind of person. I have to be so careful that I don't like totally take them out of their power when I know they've gone from speaking with spirit or speaking with spirit to the left side of the brain, which is the analytical, logical, human side. I have to be careful because I want them to be able to flow back and forth, to find that space, to be able to take that breath in and remove themselves from left brain and go back to right brain. But if I'm standing there going like, and that's a funny face I just made for the listeners. That's going to be a problem, right? But it's just a thing, Okay, that's a great question. Just trust.
Okay, second question. What is the most powerful or emotional message you've ever channeled for someone?
Okay, first of all, I feel bad because unlike Nancy, she always takes the names down of the people who ask the questions. I never did that. I just like wrote the question out. Okay, so whoever wanted to know this, What's the most powerful or emotional message you've ever channeled for someone? The number one, I'm sure there is probably a billion trillion, because I'm an evidential medium, and a lot of the work I did before I focused on the more empowerment was a woman, and this was early on when I had just started reading at some of the psychic fairs, specifically the Crystal Light one at the First United Spiritualist Church. And I remember exactly where I was sitting, and she came to my table and she sat down and she looked so like sad. And I was like, okay. And I brought in her son. And
Mm,
I was like, okay, I have a son here, please. I feel like, oh, I said, oh, you have three sons. And she's like, she's just nodding. She was quite upset. And so
mhm,
she's, I have three sons, or I said, you have three sons. She's like, yes, she confirmed it. I said, and he passed tragically. I said, I feel like there was an accident. I feel a car. I feel like it was very quick. He, no suffering. I remember exactly what I gave her, because in the middle of this reading, in the middle of this reading, I legitimately stopped, took a huge breath, and looked at her and said, you have a second son in spirit. And she said, yes. And I said, and he died tragically. I said, of his own accord. And she said, yes. And I said, because he couldn't cope. And it just became this huge thing. She was left with her middle son. She was left with her middle son. And it was a bit traumatizing for me, because I was still in that early stages of reading, right? So
mhm.
I was trying to get my grip around it, and I had tiny kids at that point. Anyway, that's the most profound one. And I brought them through, and they were together and they were good together, and that was
Mhm.
really consoling for her. She was very appreciative of that, but that definitely took me back a little bit, for sure.
Well, I have a couple I'm going to share. One's a very short one. I remember one of my first readings that I was doing, and a lady came, and they always say when you're in development, trust, trust, trust. And spirit showed up. It was an older gentleman. It was definitely a father energy. So I let her know I have a father here with me. I said, but I'm only getting a picture of a green leaf.
Oh,
And they always say, deliver the message. Don't try to edit it or audit it or anything like that. I'm like, he's giving me nothing else other than a green leaf. What does the green leaf mean? And she burst into tears. And he had commissioned a painting from her favorite artist of a green leaf. And it was one of the last gifts that he gave
oh,
to her. And it was like, oh wow. So that was pretty profound. I
yeah.
loved that. And then the first time where because in the question it asks about channeling um for someone, but this is when I actually channeled someone. I had an Auschwitz survivor come through. It was a lady's grandfather, and I was reading at a fair, and I was very new. It was like probably one of my first or second fairs ever. And I wasn't really, I hadn't even done anything with channeling, to be honest. And so the grandfather came in. He didn't have enough energy to really give me like messages, and I let him sort of unconsciously but consciously merge with my energy. Gave a beautiful message for her. She cried. He was so happy to see her. Da da da. We sent her on her way. I walked out to the lady that was hosting the fair, and she goes, oh my God. And I was yellow, and I was gaunt, and I had physically taken on some of his characteristics. And she's like, I don't know what to do with you. Go eat a cookie or something. Cause like, you and I have trans channelers in our world, and we've watched their faces morph and stuff like that. But I had never had that happen to me. So the fact that I turned literally yellow, and me, I'm fairly, I live in a bigger body, so I'm not gaunt. So it's one of those things that it was like, it was kind of neat, but it also made me go, I don't know if I want to do channeling, to be
Yeah,
honest.
yeah, it's one of those things. You know, I didn't even remember the part where they said, "Have you ever channeled for someone?" I don't remember when I channel, so I don't remember. So for me, uh, I don't know unless someone tells me. something specific, I don't know. And people
Mhm.
do, and some people have recorded me and whatnot, but I just don't remember it well enough that it stays with me.
Well, you also work channeling divine beings. I feel like that's probably slightly different than me channeling grandpa
Yeah,
who,
you're not
you know
wrong. I've always put up a barrier to channeling loved ones. I've always said nope,
Mm,
nope, nope, nope. And I watched a trance channeler though do that. And I found it very, very uncomfortable. I thought for the person that was receiving the message, who I knew was a client of mine,
mhm,
I thought it was just a very uncomfortable situation. I thought that the whole energy was wrong. It felt like Pet
mhm.
Cemetery.
Oh dear. Oh,
Hmm.
well, luckily the client sitting with me received the message beautifully, and it just really, because I was still so new to everything, I went, "Ooh, gotta remember," like I
For
don't
all
have
of
to
it.
share my
I mean,
energy
there's
that
always a
much.
certain form of channeling, that we do when we are bringing evidential loved ones through. Because sometimes
Mhm.
someone will say to me, "Oh, you sound like him," and I'll be like, "Huh?" Or I'll catch myself and I'll be like, "Where'd the accent come from?" Right. So there's
Yeah.
always a little bit of that conscious channeling. I just don't want anyone, any kind of energy like that in my body because they haven't been
Yeah.
gone long enough in my books. And that's just like I said, you did a beautiful message. You took it on, you gave it,
Mhm.
and you let it go. That's all you can
Well, and it's
do.
interesting, and from a teaching perspective, the mentor at the time that I was talking with, and as you know and teach your students, we raise our vibration and spirit lowers theirs so we can merge. But I still, she didn't really ever teach anything about channeling, and I think that that's where I was raising a little too much,
Ah,
and that's how that sort of happened. All right, so next question, you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Have you ever had a spirit come through that didn't want to talk or was angry or confused?
Uh, yes, but usually we dismiss them right away. So
Mm,
if they're not interested, then they don't belong with me. There's nothing, what can I do? I can't force them to speak to me. I can't, if they're not open to it. Most of the time, though, Nan, I feel that those spirits just won't come through. They're like, "Oh, I hear
yeah.
them calling. I hear the bell a ringing, but I'm not coming. I don't want to do that." I feel like consciously, spirits on the other side for me, and this is just my humble opinion, once you cross over, you let go of most of the human emotions. You let go of all that energy
Mhm.
that is negative. You're there to kind of reflect back on what this life taught you so that you don't have to redo it again. But there are times that they come through and they still hold some of that personality. They're a dink. They're
Right.
they were abusive. They hold a little bit of that energy when they come through, and it's not that they come through and they try to choke me out or something, or they just don't come through in a kind way
Yeah.
because that's not who they were, and they have to show this person who they bloody were so that they can take them.
Mhm.
But on the flip side of those things, on the flip side of this, I've had many, 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 many. I feel like the little Wayne song, milli, milli, milli. Spirits come through that the person that's sitting with me does not want to hear from.
Yes, I was going to say that. I was going to say everything that you just said, 100%. Yes, yes, yes. I confirm. Same for me. It's the anger is from the living sitting in front of us. That's often where it is, where the people are like, "No, I do not want to talk to them. I don't want to forgive them. I want nothing to do with them." And then all I can do is say, "Thank you for coming forward. She's not ready or he's not ready." And you leave it at that,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. And I always give them two shots. I'm like, "Are you sure?" Because they obviously have something they want to say to you. They have nothing I
Mhm.
want to hear. Fair enough. Um, and that is fair enough. And it bothers me though, because again, to another point is that sometimes people come with a specific person they want to hear from. And, we always say we don't have the 411 to spirit. We don't. I don't know if I
Mhm.
truly don't. or what? Because I'll say that, and then they'll be like, so and so's here, and then all of a sudden I'll give them three pieces of evidence, and they'll be like, oh, that's them. I'm like, oh, great, here they are. And I don't feel
Yeah.
that's a me thing. I feel that's my guide. That's a Tony thing, and they can bring that through because the person was either just waiting, or there was an obstacle coming through the first time. But I
Hmm.
really, I do say to people, hey, I know this isn't who you wanted to come through. I get it. I know it. I feel it.
Hmm.
But they have an important message. And how do I
Yeah.
know that? Because they wouldn't come through otherwise.
Yes. And our contract is with spirit, not with the client.
So
Our contract is with
it
them.
always makes me slightly uncomfortable, a little bit sad, even when the client just refuses to take the message, whether it's they don't want to talk to the spirit that's come through, or because they're angry at them or whatever, or it's just not who they want to hear from, and they feel like they're going to waste time with these people, and maybe the other person won't come through, or I won't be able to pick it up, or whatever. But I always say to, and I think I can do this well enough now that I get through to people. I always say, hey, it's going to be important. You're going to want to hear it. It's going to
Hmm.
give you something other than a rash.
Oh dear. Yes. So, on that note, on the rashy note, let's move on to the fourth question. Okay.
Okay.
So, what is the wildest or most haunted experience you've had doing this work?
Oh, I have so many. I don't even know which one to choose. Separately House is a good one where I was up in the attic. This is an old house in Burnaby. It's a heritage home. Can I just say something?
Hmm.
I just want to say this. Nan's going to be like, oh my God, what is she doing? I was shopping today and I was in a Nike store. And if you know, you know. I love me some Nike. And the guy comes up to me, young guy. There's a purpose I'm telling you this. It resonates with separately. Kind of, sort of. It gives me excuse. Anyway, and he's like, oh my God, I've got vintage Nike stuff that's come out. And so I'm like, really? What's that look like? Like, what's a vintage Nike thing look like? So he goes, it's super old, but it's all back in stock and in style. And I'm like, okay, like, let's take a look at this. So he brings the mother fluffin' piece out to me, and it's super cool. I bought it. Just saying, I bought it. Nike should sponsor me. But I was like, 1972? 1972, my dude. I said, I was born in 71. He's like, I was like,
you're you're vintage.
and that was the end of that. I snatched it from his little hand and I tootled off to the fitting room and I came out and he's like, Cara, because they asked your name for when you're in the room. Did you like it? I'm like, it is perfectly old. And I left and I got it. And I was like, vintage? It's so old. I was like, anyway, I thought that was fun. So Separately House is one of them. It's a heritage home, well over 100 years old. Huge story about it. I do lots of Halloween stuff based on Separately House. Up in the attic, we were doing a tour. I had my hair pulled one way. I had a voice whispering in my ear. I had the door slam in my face. So very, very energetic movements from spirit. I see Mrs. Sepperly walking all the time. If I go there at night, I will see her walking back and forth all the time. She's a residual ghost there. Haunted, haunted, haunted. The Penn State, the BC Penitentiary Graveyard. And I would just like to
Mm.
say, I crawled on my hands and knees through bushes, under fences with a group of paranormal investigators, my sister and Casey from Kelowna. He's a seer, and to get in there. But that one, there was stuff happening. Even when I talk about it now, I don't know if you can see, I'm all goose pimply. That was crazy. That was crazy. And lots of confirmation came from that one. That was cool.
That's cool.
I mean, I could go on and on. I mean, I have lots of stuff. So
20 years
Yes.
worth.
Vintage.
You're vintage. Oh
What do
dear.
you
I
have?
love it. Well, I have a bunch as well. Of course, there's always stuff with cemeteries,
Mhm.
right? Cemetery walk. And I saw, a little girl and a war veteran where, you know, total pet cemetery stuff. Like, I have a rule with spirit. Do not show me how you died. Just tell me. I do not need to see the graphics. I don't need to see the gore.
Mm.
Um, so that was very interesting. But I think probably the most profound was when I was visiting a girlfriend of mine on Vancouver Island, and she lived in a 100-year-old farmhouse. And we were taking her daughter to her ballet lesson or something like that. And we drove by a house, and I was like, oh my gosh, what went on in that house? Like, I just knew there was something very, very bad. And fast forward later to we're sitting in her living room, and there was a girl who was in ghost form standing outside the window. And she said to me, help them find me. And I was like, oh, okay. And so I said, there's okay, I'm not gonna because she's just a muggle. So I said, not trying to freak you out here. But there's a girl standing outside your window, and she looks like this, and she's your daughter's age. And she goes, okay, so that house we drove by today? And I'm like, yeah, that girl went missing from that house. I said, okay, well, let's go for a drive. And so we went for a drive the next day. And I told her messages from this girl. And I told her messages that this girl, because this girl was friends with my friend's daughter. And she's like, yeah, that's definitely who you've got here. So we went for a drive the next day, and I walked her through. I said, okay, now turn here, turn here, turn here. I said, in the spring, when everything thaws and the bramble dies back, I said, that's where you guys are going to find her. And I told them how she passed. And they basically found her the next spring in the thaw when all the brambles died back. It was very, very unfortunate. But um and then the person who sort of brought to her surmise eventually got dealt with
Mm.
by the justice system. So he got convicted on that. But that was probably the craziest sort of,
Yeah.
I guess, I guess she wasn't really a haunting. And I remember my girlfriend saying, we got to go to the police. I said, no, we don't. I said, they're going to be like, how do you know where her body is? What did you have to do with this? And I'd be like, oh gosh, nothing. I'm just a little old psycho medium. I got nothing to do with this. Right. But that's, as much as you and I are fascinated, you and I listen to a lot of true crime podcasts.
Mhm.
We watch a lot of those shows. Um, and there was a point in my development journey I thought I wanted to work with the police, but it's such a dark side of society, and I just like working in the light. I just like working with animals and the unconditional nature of them.
You know what's funny about that is that I've never once thought about working the police. I have worked with the police 3 times and didn't love it. Didn't I felt pressure. I felt all sorts of weird stuff. And
Yeah.
that wasn't my cup of tea. Now maybe that was many years ago, so maybe I'd be in a different headspace now. But no, I don't want to do that. Because
Yeah.
for me, it all has to be natural. It has to,
Mhm.
it's not me sitting, when you do something like a séance and you're inviting people in, I'm not necessarily inviting a specific person in. I'm opening up to the energy that has a message. So I found that when they were like, "Oh, can you find this missing person? Oh, can you do this?" And most of them didn't take me seriously anyway. It was because of the indigenous families that reached out and said,
Mhm.
"Hey, we know a
Mhm.
medium and we want you to work with her to find our loved one." That was
Mhm.
uncomfortable on its own, because if I had the information, I would give it.
Mhm.
Period. Hard stop. You don't have to ask me, but if I had the information, I would give it. So one of the things that I just made the conscious decision of is that I'm not that medium. I'm not the missing person medium. I'm not the find the murdered soul. I'm not even the person to find your missing jewelry. Right? That's not the kind
Yeah.
of work that I do. Because I don't do it well. Because the moment that my humanness feels pressure, I do a block with spirit.
Mhm.
So am I a good medium? Absolutely. When it's on my terms.
And that's so important that you say that, because that's just it, right? Like, We don't play test the medium. We don't play on demand. Um, I often have the 411 to all sorts of animal spirits when people want to talk to them. In some cases, I don't. And I think that's because some of it wasn't on my terms, right?
Mhm.
And it's about an energetic alignment. Like when people come to you or come to me, it's because our energy matches and we're meant to work with them. We're meant to help them,
Mhm.
right? But I have to agree with you. There's a lot of pressure because you've got, especially in these cases, you've got the family who
Mhm.
desperately want healing. They desperately want closure. And we put enough pressure on ourselves with bringing through the evidence and all of that. So yeah, I feel like it's just a really heavy, heavy thing.
Yeah, I agree. Those are the questions, though. Those are the 4 questions we
That's it.
have.
That's it. We're wrapped up for questions. And we love this, guys. So if you have questions, make sure you send them to us, submit it through Instagram DM, or I think all of our contact deets are definitely below if you're on YouTube or on any of our podcast platforms. And reach out because we love engaging with you guys.
Absolutely. So, that brings us to the special time of our podcast where somebody gets a reading.
Yay!
And who is the somebody today? Mary.
Drum roll. Mary.
Mary V.
V like Victor.
V like Victor.
All right. So Mary V like Victor. We're gonna pull some cards. I'm gonna pull cards from another one of my favorite decks, which is the Spirit Animals Oracle.
I have no
You guys
idea.
see
I
a
think this is
theme?
a Colette Baron Reed deck. I think.
Tara never keeps the boxes, so she doesn't know
Well,
what
there's
her
a
decks are.
few. Like I've got like 3 out of like 950,000 decks. But I've got 3. Um So this is for Mary, the eyes of beauty, positive expectations, and clarity. This is a great card, Mary. This is really about
Mm,
stepping into that power base for you and really owning, the fact that you get to make your decisions. You are in charge of you. You are in control. And the more you understand that and the more you embrace that, embody it, all the fat words you want to use, baby, the more you do that, the just more powerful that you are. And then the things that you are needing come. And once the things you need have come, then the things you want start to come. And I love that. That's a beautiful transition. So, Mary, go out there and slay, girlfriend.
I love that. Mary, you got from me, hold on, here we go, lizard. And lizard, I love how these messages always go together, Tara. This is about being a survivor. This is about unparalleled energy. This is about shedding what no longer serves you, stepping into your power. This is all about that transformation. This is about sitting within the place going, yes, I am. And that's all that's necessary or
Hmm.
needed. Sitting with that and going, you know what? I'm a master of my own domain. I'm a master of regeneration. And think about it, adaptability. Lizards have such an incredible adaptability. So I want you to sort of tap into lizard energy and their magic of whatever it is that you need that strength. Think about it. We're always, Tara laughs because I give her fun facts about animals all the time. A lot of lizards can drop their tail as a safety
I knew
mechanism.
that one. I knew
Oh,
that.
okay. There we go.
I'm just saying.
So this again, it not only do they shed skin, they can shed what no longer serves them to protect them, right? So it might be time to look and reflect at the relationships and the energy around you because you might want to do a little bit of house cleaning on some of the people that are in your world right now. So I'm going to leave that with Mary.
Let's go. Love it. Okay, friends, that brings us to the end of our Q&A for today. So,
Yes.
thank you for joining us. Thank you always for coming. Share us with your friends. Follow us on all our social media, Nancy Christine Brady, Spirit Essence by Tara Diana, our streaming stuff, which is like Apple and Spotify and Podbean and I don't know, Google somewhere, Google Earth, Google Maps, Google something. You'll find us. And just, let people know that we're out there. If you like what you're seeing, if you think this would be fun for a friend of yours that comes to mind when you see this podcast or listen to the podcast, then go ahead and give them a shout out and make sure you're following us on Instagram and our Patreon, Spirit Angels and Guides. Oh my.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. And we'll see you next time.
Okay,
Bye.
bye. for joining us on this journey into the wonderfully weird and metaphysical.
If you loved what you heard, don't forget to follow us for more insights and behind the scenes fun.